That is the focus. So the focus is expressing our true self.
Mm.
One of the foundational 4 choices. So today it's I choose to love expressing my true self. I choose to love my life by expressing my true self.
Mm. Yeah, that's nice.
To me, this fits into compassion from yesterday, a spillover from yesterday's compassion, and a leading into our purpose. And it's fine if we don't know what those are. The joy, the experience is to begin to bring shape and form by wondering, by curiosity of what might mine be. And when we do that in silence, we're just aware of what shows up, setting the focus. That's my choice. And then relaxing into it. I practiced that this morning. 2 minutes, my mind was somewhere else. And I realized, I was like, oh, look where my mind went.
Did you
And I
follow it?
honor. So when I came back, it's like, oh, I'm in the context of my true nature.
Mm.
So I reset again, but then I reflected and went, wow, out of everything, that showed up under that purpose, under that focus. So that is part of my true nature. So yes, I followed it. I allowed it. It's like, rather than questioning it or rather than say, oh, that's not part of it.
Mm.
So often that's what I found my pattern. I used to do that. I used to be, oh, well, that can't be part of it. That's something else. And now it's like, oh, it could be. So it's the curiosity, it's the wonder how it
Mm.
could be. So
Yeah, I found that I'm in a nice spot, like, because now it's like almost like, when you pick a movie, you're like flicking. So it's flicking like through your thoughts. So like when a thought comes in, like, oh, do I want to choose this or I want to bring it back? So I say bring it back, and then obviously something's gonna come up again, and then you're like, oh, do I want to follow this or I just want to bring it back again? Bring it back, bring it back, and it seems to work pretty good.
and so when we say something like that, it seems to work pretty good. Then we're looking at some outcome and judging it, weighing it against
Mm.
that outcome. So what would you be weighing it against to say, to be able to say, oh, that works pretty good?
Good question.
And what I'll
Pretty,
just speak. Go ahead.
yeah, it's I just found it's pretty good in relation of like, so it's really the progress. It seems like I was following every thought before, but now I have the choice.
Mm.
That's why I say it works pretty good.
May I feedback what I heard?
Mm-hmm.
I heard awareness. It's like the practice, the progress, the skill developing your awareness to bring it back, to choose, and to choose center.
Mm.
Good. And I think I would wrap that like when we do that, we're peacefully. We can practice being aware of being peaceful internally, inner peace, which is where we can really deeply explore these questions, to explore our life, to explore what's happening inside of us. Well, that's what I heard. Thanks, Pascal.
Mm.
Would you, when you're ready, would you invite Craig?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
With you to share with us this morning, to express your true self. What does it really mean to you? True self. I'm curious.
Thank you, Pascal. I'm searching for the words. In integrity. Which means in sync with knowing, with knowingness, with inner knowingness. For me, true is I know I know that I know that I know. You know, I just know.
Yeah, it's not something you need to read somewhere or hear somewhere.
No. It is something that it is something I sense. Yeah, my whole body senses what's true. It's a, yeah, it's a vibration that's in harmony.
How does it feel when it's true to you?
There's no dissonance in it. I used to tune pianos, and there's a technique to that. Um, what you do when you're tuning your unisons, you're tuning one string to another, and basically what you do is you intentionally put it out of tune because you can actually hear the dissonance. And as you bring it more and more in tune, the dissonance you hear goes away until the two strings just kind of sing together.
Mm.
Like a dissonance actually sounds like a wow, 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 wow. And as it gets closer, it goes wow, 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 and then it comes to they come to a match, and it's just a long drawn out tone where both strings match each other. And if it's really close, you can't hear it because they vibrate at the same pitch, and you can only hear the difference.
So two become one,
Right.
yet there's still two.
Right. And that's why they call them unisons. You bring the multiple strings into unison with each other. They vibrate sympathetically. You know, the same thing happens if you have two matching tuning forks. Okay, you can tap one and have another one set up across the room if they're matching tuning forks, and you initiate one of them, and you point its vibration toward the other one, and the other one will start vibrating at the same. It'll vibrate at the same time, even though you're nowhere near it and you haven't touched it.
Right.
It'll just sympathetically do that, because once that vibration is in the air, the other one will pick it up sympathetically. Like it'll vibrate because it's already tuned to that frequency. The same thing happens with the two strings. Because you're tuning the one, but you're leaving the other one alone, and they end up sympathetically singing together, singing the same tone or the same tune. So to me, that's what true is. And in the same way, it's easier for my body to sense not true than it is to sense true. Because you can hear it. You can hear not vibrationally easier than you can hear true.
You sense this, you're still talking about sensing.
Yeah.
Okay. And so it's, if we're internally tuning between two or more strings, what would be the strings? What would we identify the tuning of?
Well, basically what you're doing, what you're sensing with your body is the same way your eardrums sense the physical tune. Your body can sense the vibrational harmony or not.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting when you're saying, like, when you're tuning a piano, that you have to put it in dissonance,
Yep.
and then bring it to balance.
Yep.
But I don't know if that's where, like, binaural beats came from, because it's two frequency that they're not the same, but your brain basically tune it.
Yeah, it's kind of the same principle. I don't know if it works on dissonance as much as it does on harmonics. So there's when you work with frequency, you can when a frequency is double another one, then you'll get a harmony. It's like a third, for example. So you take a C and an E, middle C and an E, and they will give you a third harmonic. So
Mhm.
they'll kind of sing together, but they're two different tones.
Right.
Okay? So that's not a unison. That would be a third. A bunch of those together make up a chord.
Yeah, it's interesting what you're talking about, and it remind me like how much I'm sensitive to voices and how
Yeah.
much like I can't stand some people talking, and it doesn't really matter what they're talking about.
Yeah, and that's a form of clairaudience. So you know when they talk about the clairs that you pick up, there's clairvoyant and clairaudient and clairolfactant, and there's a whole
Yeah,
list of them.
clairsentience, audience, yeah,
Yes, exactly.
voyance.
Those are um, those are frequency senses, frequency oriented senses that operate at a different level than the physical ones. They're non-physical senses. Okay, they're higher dimensional ones would be a good way to explain what they are. They operate in dimensions that are higher than space and time.
If I'm bringing that into expressing my true self, sensing dissonance, which is a difference. And then so if there's a difference, then it's between context, it's between something. And for me, it's the thoughts, the difference between the thoughts and the feelings. And they're those two in frequency, in harmony, and like in harmony for positive or negative. The yes, the no, what in my feelings, I just put words to it so that I can observe. Is that my heart, the feeling from my heart, which is where I would say our truth comes from, where our true self lies, is where the positive is. As we spoke yesterday, it's like the source of compassion. And then the other feeling I say is like from my gut, and that mostly is from my no or my fear or my limitation of my experience. And then the last action that I will say is when I speak it out loud, and I then listen to, is that aligned through my whole body? That is the clearest way for me to observe alignment or discord. what's true, what isn't. And it, as Pascal, you said earlier, it's a process. It takes practice. And focus. And that's where the thoughts, the focus of, how could I express my true self, my true nature, my true passion, my purpose right now?
There's a missing piece in there, though. Jesse. Because your brain can only process the physical senses. That is like seeing and hearing and touching and tasting and
I would call that the nervous. I would call it part of the nervous system.
yeah, it's tied into that, but all of that stuff is processed through your brain. Okay, but these senses aren't processed by your brain. They're actually processed by your heart and your solar plexus.
Okay.
Okay. So your brain can't discern what's truth and falsehood. It can't tell the difference. Because truth is in a sensory plane.
Mm-hmm. Good. Then let me work here is that my thinking brain can't feel.
Correct.
But even those planes, as the solar plexus and the heart, somehow we have to take that sense, that frequency, that feeling, that vision, whatever we get, and then turn it into a focus, which requires words, which is where the thinking mind will create the story. That's right. How I bring it in to express in this 3D world. Best I can tell, but because I do agree they're out there that have no form to them, like a feeling, until we put awareness, till we put language to it. There's just all sorts of chaotic discord potentially out there.
Yes. Well, and the thing is that that cognition, like intellectual cognition, or your brain, your physical brain making sense, your head brain making sense of things, all of that's subject to interpretation.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a true science. Because your brain doesn't really have access to true.
Now here's what I'll notice is like when the thinking brain is the one leading, completely understand that and will agree with that. But if it's deciphering, if it's feeling the whole system and revealing what's there, that I say is true. As best we can. Like it's the example of you're getting something from nothing. You either ignore it or allow it.
Yeah, but it's not your brain that's doing that.
Well, it's part of the process. It's not leading
yeah.
it. Like it's not leading it. You're not, it's just,
Right.
it's
Right.
just, it's not leading, it's not driving it, it's not like going for it, it's just interpreting. It's in interpreting the heart and interpreting the solar plexus, the frequency, the information, the visions, like however people get them. The closest thing we could call them is feelings, such as when I say something or I think something, then and then if I ask, is it true? I'm feeling into how true that is for me. Because it was just something that came out in the moment. And I mean, you think about it, we're trying to process that information we get through these filtered senses and reveal it to the world. Like speaking is a complex process with so many filters in our society today because of the structures we run. And in terms of expressing our true self, we don't run that. There's so much filtering in place of that because our thinking logical brain is driving the show.
Right.
Suppressing the rest of the feelings, which means we're not listening to the two of them. We're just listening to the one most of society, which is how I spent most of my life.
See, we've been taught to cognize through our brain first.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and not to trust our
Yes.
not to trust our higher senses. Okay, we're taught to trust our physical senses and base everything on that.
Yes. Yeah.
But all that's dealing with is space and time. It's not dealing with the energy, it's not dealing with anything else but the space and time and the appearances and all that stuff.
Which, not to discount that, because it is part of the
it's a necessary thing. It's a necessary thing for living in time and space environment.
Survival, I say. It's like that's why we put so much energy on it, I believe, is because it is part of the survival.
Right.
And society's structure.
But that's basically the same that's basically the same mechanism that all animals on the planet have to work with, including humans. Like Einstein said, you can't solve the problem. You can't solve problems with the same stuff that created it.
The same thinking, right? You can't, and
All with
I
the
didn't
same
realize-
mechanisms.
Yeah, that
You
too.
know, it's a mechanism. Is really what it is.
I watched a show on Gaia yesterday, and this lady has a pretty amazing story. She said that she was battling cancer, stage 4 cancer. It was everywhere, really. Like, she had tumors everywhere for over 4 years, and then her, you know, you would say like her last day, she went in coma. And when she went in coma, that's when she had kind of like you would say like a near-death experience. And then she understand things that she never understand before. And then like when she came back, you know, they were like, "You're not done. You're not done. You need to go back." And so, you know, like in coma, like she was seeing her body laying down and her family around and stuff and crying and like, yeah, we pretty much lost her, blah, 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 right? And her heart stopped even. And then, yeah, it was about like 36 hours later that she came back. And she was like, "I'll be fine." And then like nurses, they were like, "What are you talking about? Like you're dying, you know?" Said, "Oh no, I understand. Illness is not physical illness. It doesn't come from the physical." And 3 weeks later, all her tumors shrank by 70%. A month and a half later, they were all gone. And she didn't do anything. You know, she just understood how they were created. So yeah, it's just what you guys are talking about the mind and, you know, like solar plexus, like heart chakra and stuff. It's just, yeah, it's quite amazing. Yeah, I don't know what to say. It's just, yeah. It just rang a bell because I was watching this yesterday and I was like, oh, wow. It's exactly what they're talking about. So. Yeah, I don't think we understand much. Or there's so much more to understand. And it's not with our mind, you know?
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of confusion around all this stuff now because you talk about your mind these days and most people think that's your brain.
Mm.
But it's not. Your brain is part of it, but it's not a central part of it.
Yeah.
Thanks, Pascal. What I connected to said the same thing, was when we can learn to access so much more information. We'll call it the field, we'll call it the other dimensions, we'll call it out there, that's higher than what our experience, our past allows for.
Yeah, beyond our five senses.
Yeah. And it's like, oh, what we're speaking about is the bridge to that.
Hmm.
And because that is where the true self lies. And so it's explaining, and from our words of, yes, how the thinking and gets in the way of, stands in front of that bridge or hides it. Protects it, which from like goes through needs to travel through the heart. And I'll call it the ego mind, has learned to protect the heart, at least mine has, so that I didn't feel anything through it.
Yeah.
But as for me, is that if I ask for that information through my heart into that other information, allow it to come in, my brain has to process it into something. I think. I mean, that's where I say my words come from. So that's how I give it shape anyway.
Yeah. Because it's interesting too, the words that you're using. I think this is how it works.
Yeah, I use that for interpretation because it's just mine. It's not the truth.
Yeah.
And until someone provides me with something better, I'll use that one.
Mm.
Yep. Or until you sense some dissonance in that conclusion.
That's right. Or in that explanation doesn't serve my purpose. Which is explaining how I've come to where I'm at to express, find, search for my true self, my passion, a life I love as a powerful creator. Genius is the other word for it, and how others can find theirs. And until, well, I think, until we're at a time where we don't have to talk, then that's the best we got.
Your physical brain doesn't have access to that stuff either. What your true nature might be.
I understand the concept, but as a closed system, something has to process it.
Yeah, but that's the point.
So here's my point would be, well, then we could remove the brain and you would work. We know that's not true.
How do you know that's not true?
Oh, they've, take, for example, the guy that removed the emotional part of his brain.
Okay, that's emotions. Who says it's emotions?
It's still part of his brain.
No, you're saying that part is part of was emotion.
So his thinking mind said, if I didn't have the emotion, I will remove that part of my brain. I'm talking about the whole system that's working. We can't just cut out one part of the system and say, oh, we can operate better that way. We can only change how the operation of it works. It's not,
Yeah.
I
But
hear you trying
consciousness
to
keeps
separate
working.
it.
Consciousness works whether the brain is dead or not. Not dependent on the brain.
And so give me a state that when what would we call someone in that state?
Medically, they call that unconscious, but that's
Right.
not a good word for it.
I got it. But look, I needed to give it some reference because that's what I had too. We could call it a coma. Yes, no?
Yeah.
I can't.
The thing is,
a person in a,
we're
here's
talking
my
about
point.
the part of you that's alive, whether the brain is working or not.
Good, I'm with you, but here's my point: is you can't communicate with anyone else in a coma.
No, but that doesn't really make any difference whether you're communicating or not.
It does for my purpose and my serving.
Okay.
Communication, thinking mind, that connection of all of that. That's it. That's the point that I'm working with on that. Not arguing like the truth of how it works with you, but mine is to help build a bridge so people can find theirs.
Okay.
Which requires speaking, like what we're doing here, exchanging, which requires the thinking brain, the heart and the gut, and all the other dimensions in how to live a life that we love.
Yeah, but that part of you is nonverbal.
I know, but we have to make it verbal.
That's the problem. We're trying to make it verbal. It's not.
Well, how else would we communicate it?
Well, because it's not about communicating it.
Then how does the whole world discover it? As I don't agree that the world is the best place it needs to be at right now.
Well, yeah, but that's a totally different question. On one side of the table, we're talking about consciousness, and on another side of the table, we're talking about communicating it.
I don't see the separation.
Well, there's some people on the planet that don't have the capability to communicate their consciousness. They don't have the capability.
Why not? If I do, they do.
Well, no, not true.
Why?
There's people that are neurodivergent that don't even think in language at all. Are you saying that they're less conscious than we are? Because they can't communicate it? Well,
Would you say they have a better connection than we do?
No, but I'd say they have an advantage.
Then
Their experience of consciousness doesn't have to go through a filter, doesn't have to go through a language filter.
gotcha. And therefore we can't understand them.
No, that's not true,
Okay.
because we can understand them nonverbally. That's why they have an advantage.
we still have to take it and process it. Yeah, I got it. I mean,
Yeah, but the thing is, it's being processed anyway.
Mhm.
They aren't processing stuff any less than we are.
I'm not saying that. So then I wonder, why did language come in? Why does language come in as instinctual?
Well, because it does. But the thing is, we also have the capability to process stuff non-verbally.
That's what I would say. We're working the bridge too. Yes.
Yeah. So when we go into co-creative space together, what I'm working with is nonverbal stuff.
Right. And then bringing it into verbal.
Yes, to an extent.
So that one is driving, the nonverbal is driving rather than the verbal leading the show. True, I agree with you.
Right,
That's
right.
where we're going. That's what we're practicing. Yes.
But verbalizing everything actually hampers the creative side of it.
Yep, I agree with you.
It's actually an obstacle.
I agree with you.
It's
but
because
also
we haven't learned how to
leaving it-
do it. We haven't learned how to communicate telepathically or energetically yet.
That's right. And that's when I said,
That's what
when
we're
we
learning.
get to that point, then we don't have to talk. That's wonderful. Society has not developed that yet. Or maybe we have and we got out of it. I don't know.
Well, we discovered that a lot of this stuff came to light when we started practicing it.
Mhm.
It's just not all, like, not the whole society are there, right? So
No.
that's why we're using language to communicate. But yeah, I'm with you that, like, eventually, I don't know how long, but that's my goal too. Because, like, the only way I can communicate with Kai is telepathically, like, with or gesture or like sign language.
Yeah, making faces at them and
Yeah, no, exactly. And why did he choose me as a parent? And I keep asking him every day. And
See,
then
the
he
thing is,
smile
he's
at
in-
me and
yeah, he's in a pre-verbal state.
yeah.
So the thing is, he's communicating with you energetically or telepathically or however you want to call it. He's
Yeah.
communicating
Yeah.
with you on that level right now.
Mhm.
Which we all did
Which we all did. Yes.
Yeah, we started there.
before words filtered and got in the damn way.
Right.
And what is important is that as we started to learn the words, we spoke them out loud because we were expressing that emotion, that word that was there. And people around us said, stop doing it out loud. And so we ran that conversation inside. that builds patterns, and especially patterns, sabotaging patterns, false patterns. That's the ones to let go of.
Yeah, because we think we're our emotion, we're our thoughts. We just don't know who we are. Now, when you're learning who we are, then we're not that.
But
And we don't
like
need to
you
work
can't
on those.
yeah, you can't explain that to a child that's learning, that's processing that, that's experiencing that.
Right.
Like we all did in the current structure that we are raising children in. And you are raising a different structure for your child, which 30 years will know how that went.
Yeah.
A whole
But I
nother
feel like
generation.
it's easier for me, like even if I say, when to tell them like, yeah, you're not your thoughts, you're not your emotion, and maybe like you'll remember that like who he really is. You start young instead than like, 40 years later, you're like, oh, I'm not that, really?
Yeah.
But the ego mind always say, no, you're that. Don't think about anything else. You are that, you are the frustration. You are the sadness. You are.
Your ego mind always thinks that. It doesn't mean that theirs will, especially like the questions you're asking, right, or sharing, even telepathically expressing, is what shapes all of that. That's like intentions. For intentions, like for me, they have to have word. Focus has to have words with the language. Otherwise, it's like it turns out to be nothing or everything. And then
I think it's
what's
part
the
of
difference?
It shouldn't maybe not completely focus on that, but that's why like mantras still work, right? Speaking out loud. But I don't think it's the first step, right? So
I think it's only half the step.
it's one of the steps, yes.
Yeah.
And it's also a limiting belief.
Yeah, exactly.
That you require words.
That's right. And when I say the biggest, why I would say affirmations are maybe only half work is because we don't believe them. We don't have the feeling, we don't engage, we don't embrace that truth because subconsciously saying that's not true. So we don't feel it. So there's the feeling aspect of it.
Yeah, you're not allowing your body to sense it.
Yep.
Sense truth or falsehood.
Yep. Yeah, you're driving it with the affirmation, with the words. That's driving it.
Yep.
So I think back to the harmony, bringing the words, the feelings into alignment. Is how we discover and express what's true or true for us.
Yeah, when David Hawkins wrote his books, he's got about 10 of them or so, something like that. When he wrote his books, he had a whole team of people that muscle tested every single sentence in those books.
And he invented a scale with words that we could orient to. Because, right, didn't he give them, like, it had to hit a certain number, or otherwise they would not include it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So there was a degree of truth. And I think that's what's so fascinating about the true self. It doesn't need to make sense.
No.
And the thinking mind is the one that's trying to make sense of it.
Well, and that feels it's necessary.
Structurally, from old patterns, yes, from our conditioning. Otherwise, I mean, it's a great tool used effectively as an interpreter.
Yes.
I mean, I'm just thinking about this. If someone speaks to you in a foreign language, there's no tension because you don't understand the words. Now you'll really listen to the tone, the body language, you'll listen to all other sorts of clues, but you won't know what they're saying. You will interpret, you will make up, and that's only when we can create tension.
What does tension have to do with it?
Tension to me is the feeling. It's the yes or no. It's the sensing information. So it's the emotional, it's the feeling. That's what I say. For me, it is. It's the energy. It's either resisted, it's stuck, or it's flowing. It's a no or a yes. It's my version of the muscle testing, yeah. Because that's what muscle testing is. It's measuring tension, right? Yes, no.
I don't know.
That's how I was taught. That's how I was taught muscle testing. It has to do
Measure
with
tension.
it really, you could call it. So under tension, I have tension is either resistance or flow, right? And muscle testing to me was an assessment of that. You're testing a statement, so you had to use words to test it. And so people were different, but mine was, I couldn't slide a finger through, right? I couldn't slide a finger through if it was not true. So if it was false, it was tense. It was tense. The resistance was greater in a false and a no and a not true. And in a truth, there was less resistance. It just flowed. Now, very subjective in the 3D world, yes. But then I began to feel the difference between the two. I don't muscle test very often. Anymore. I mean, it's more of a sensing, I think, to what we're talking about, to a different level of sensing.
Yes.
Like I don't stop and ask because I just trust what I'm doing now. Because I've practiced enough.
Yeah.
Now, ego mind can get in the way of that.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It can give you
False positives.
Yeah.
Yeah, even muscle testing, it can give you false positives. It can't be that way. That can't be the answer. I mean, Jesus, it happens all the time. It's so subtle. Well, which in itself is information, right? We ask the question like, oh, what is my true self? I don't like that answer.
Mhm.
Okay.
Give me something else.
Yeah,
right?
right. It's like, oh, fascinating.
I'm not that. No.
Yeah. What
Well,
should I
that's
do
why-
next? Oh no,
That's
not
why it was so important to me to find my own personal true choices.
that. Yeah. And how did you do that?
Basically like that, like putting words together that weren't dissonant.
That's right.
I couldn't feel
did
any
you-
dissonance.
Did you speak them out loud?
I didn't have to speak them out loud. But yeah, that would probably be helpful. Speak them out loud. I mean, yeah, since they landed for me, I've spoken them out loud many times.
Mhm. And even when you're speaking them, it's not. We're still testing them.
Yeah, because the thing is, you're using your voice to apply
right.
physical resonance to them.
That's right. Exactly. And it's just sensing that. It's measuring that for ourselves. It's like, oh, is that a yes or is that a no? And when
Yeah,
we
but
say it out loud, it's so much easier for not only us to hear it, but for others to hear it too.
Yeah, for me, it's more about speaking them out loud so that I can integrate them into my 3D reality.
Mhm. Yes, I agree. And adjust it if necessary.
Because that's part of it. You make them, you actually grab them in higher dimensions, and you work with them and play with them out there, and then you bring them into your 3D reality and allow them to integrate into the 3D environment.
That's right. And our society does not encourage that today.
No, not at all.
I wonder why we are miserable.
Yeah. In fact, we fight that. We're taught to fight that.
Because it feels uncomfortable.
Well, and it feels like there's a loss of control.
Yep. It doesn't
You have to
right.
surrender to it in order to integrate it.
Yep.
Surrender to the truth of it to integrate.
Which is all the thinking ego mind getting in the way.
Yep. Yeah, because it thinks it knows the truth.
It was
based on the
taught.
past and the
That's
future.
right. It was taught. That is what it's expected from a good boy or good girl.
Yes.
Again, back to the child learning how to live life. Yeah.
Yeah.
May not be true.
If you grew up with a parent who is resistant to integrating the truth, then you're gonna mimic that behavior.
And not even know there's another one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not even consider it. Not even consider there's another way of being. Until you keep bumping into feedback that tells you you got to do something different. And then, like you said, surrender to it. Ugh.
Yeah. Heaven forbid.
Let go of the control of it.
Yeah. The last thing in the world my self-conscious mind wants to do is surrender to anything.
And what I found for me was that my desire, like I had to be right. I had to know. Because if I didn't know, then I would be wrong. And oh man, as a child going through grade school, right, with straight A's, right, that just was not acceptable for me.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
always, Pascal, right, we always want to know.
Well, yeah.
And so it's
Hey, that's one of the
scary
biggest
if we don't
resistances
know.
I've had to work through.
Yeah.
Is that whole thing about not knowing.
What I
Because
didn't
my brain
realize.
brain is good and really powerful. God damn it!
Yeah, that's right.
You know.
Yes. Damn it. See,
And,
I am
and
right.
that's my truth, and I'm sticking to it. Right.
That's right. It's so limiting when we look at it from that perspective. No room for creation, no room for something different, no room for growth. I couldn't see that. Trapped in it.
Yeah.
It was a pattern that I didn't even realize there was another way of being about it. Didn't even know it was really my default until I started to be aware or pay attention, ask about it, to sense into it, feel it. And people can test that out by just bumping into a situation and saying, I don't know what to do. That's what I mean by creating and listening to tension.
Yeah.
Another example on this call was when when Pascal invited you in, and there was probably a 30-second pause as you gathered your response.
Yeah.
So many people can't sit in that silence.
Yeah.
And if they don't, they're pulling away your thoughts and filling them with theirs, filling the space with theirs.
Yeah.
So the tension is to feel, and I felt it. I felt it during that. I was just aware of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's something that requires practice too, isn't it?
Yeah, which we've practiced here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And even me, like when I asked the question, I was like, oh, he's not answering. Maybe I asked too much. Maybe that was the wrong like question, you know, all this stuff that comes in, right? And then like you start speaking like, ah.
See,
But that's part of the pattern.
That's
Right?
right.
Yeah.
Somebody asks you a question, and we're trained to give an answer as immediately as possible.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's part of the training. That's part of the conditioning.
You have to know the answer.
Yeah, yeah. It's all about knowing the answer and knowing it now.
Yep.
You know, there's a time limit on a test. Damn it!
Yep.
Yeah.
And you got to read the quote. You got to read the question and answer it right away, because you don't have time to piss around.
Yeah, and that was one of my pattern, you know, like I'll say something and then I don't hear anybody else say something. So I'm like, oh, did I trigger someone? Did I, you know, like, what's going on there? You
Yeah.
know, like,
Yeah.
is it too deep or not deep enough? Like, did I miss the mark? You know, until you kind of like, you know what? I had what I want to say, and that's it. You know, if they respond to it, good. If they don't, they don't. You know. So you're disengage yourself, right? So you're not expecting people to say something. So it's a beautiful space to be. So I would say that. So I become. So because I'm not expecting anybody to respond, so I feel less sticky. So I feel less like a block of ice and more like vapor as I raise my frequency.
Yeah.
So I'm less dense. I'm
Right.
I'm lighter.
That's because there's less agenda and less bias and less expectation
Yeah.
in an open space.
And which one is now? I don't think attachment is a bad thing, but I think our because here's what I mean by that is like if I do want to attach to my true self.
Yeah, that's a tough one just because do you really know? That is your true self.
Yeah, a lot of people are scared to even explore what their true self might be.
Yeah,
You know,
against in that
there's kind of a resistance to that too, you know.
in that show yesterday, he said people are scared of two things in life. They're scared of death, and they're scared of how powerful they are. And he says, like, well, now people only have to be scared of like how powerful they are, and not really scared, because you know everybody wants to be powerful, but it's you know, it's almost like when you know, you can't, like what we're talking about here, you cannot talk to this stuff with everybody else,
No.
you know, because you'll lose them, right? Because that's how powerful you are. So like you can't express your full power. So that's what this group is fantastic, because like I don't leave any stone unturned. Is that an expression?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
Mhm.
You know, I say it all, right?
Yeah.
And you know, we got some debate, but it's friendly debate, right? Like we're just like exploring even deeper. Oh, I didn't think about that. Or I didn't explore this point of view. But like I hear it like all the time. Yeah, it's too much. It's too much. You know, you can't talk about this stuff. You know, it's too much. It's too much. You know, people don't want to hear that. And I'm like, well, that's the truth. Oh yeah. But yeah, for me, like I have decided that I'm gonna fully express myself. And if that doesn't work for people, then that's fine, you know. And they might realize like in 5 years, 10 years, oh, maybe Pascal was right.
50 years.
50 years, 100 years, maybe like in 2 lifetime, you know. I don't know, right? But you know, I won't make myself small to fit in anymore.
Yeah, that's a huge one right there.
Or Pascal, you may come to the realization they were right.
Or they were right.
They were right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll stay open. Yeah. Because that's the belief too, right? Like until that we really know the truth, but I found like, you know, if I look even like 3 years ago, who my mentors were, like who I was listening to, and now, you know, like But like if I would have find these mentor right like 3 years ago, that wouldn't work for me. You know, I wasn't there. I wasn't ready. You know, so it's to understand that everybody have their own evolution, and there's no right or wrong. You know, so as much as like you want to try to wake people up, you know, they want to stay asleep. You know, like they want to press that snooze button.
That's right.
So
Progressing or staying in the same spot. Like that's the only measure.
yeah, and that's tough because you're like, no, let's do something together. Let's go. No.
Right?
Oh no, I'll just stay in bed.
There's the no. There's the no. 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 No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Let's go deeper. No. What do you care about?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, but did you see your life? You're digging your own your own grave. Yeah, but that's not the answer. Oh,
Exactly.
okay. Well, why don't you dig a bigger hole then? Maybe that's the answer, right? Or somewhere else, right? Yeah.
What a fascinating conversation about expressing our true self.
Mhm.
That the
Yeah,
true
they all.
self.
Yeah.
Good.
Oh, I just want to say they're all interesting in their own way. Every
Yes.
conversation is just a different flavor, right? Like it's just, you know.
Well, I think because you've changed to view it that way. You are choosing to view it that way, and it's what I've done the same thing to be like this. The true selves we're equal. We're equally unique and wonderful and beautiful because it's a genius. It's a unique genius that has a choice. And I like to choose yes and what's next.
Mm.
I don't always. That's always those three things I can always improve on.
There's another one that I'm trying to take off the table. That whole concept of improvement.
So what we're practicing with that is that you notice that the words that you've used, the tension that's attached to that word, you're questioning, you're exploring, you're unwrapping. And as you bring it
Just
into the group, it
just a
triggers us in a
constrictive
way
word.
around it too. Mhm.
There's comparison in it, there's measurement in it, there's
So a lovely practice I like is give me 5 other words around it. See, this is tuning.
yeah, there's one that encompasses all of it. It's a 4-letter word, believe it or not. More.
Okay, so there's one word. How about 4 other words?
About improving?
Yeah.
That's the word we're trying to replace.
Not yet. Let's see what other words are around it for us. It's a great practice because it's like, oh, we have other words that are in that same energy. We're just putting awareness to them. It's
Yeah,
kind
but
of
they're
like
not
exploring.
they're not in the same energy.
Well, but they are when we look at when we're comparing them, they are in the same energy. So just the practice of looking at it and then picking a word to replace it might be limited too. Compared to, oh, what other words? So here's what it does, I find, is that it expands our awareness around very similar words that are carrying a very similar charge that we can put out in the world and test for ourselves,
Gotcha.
which ones are true.
Gotcha. Okay.
So when you say improve, I also say, like, I attach the improve to change.
More energetically effective.
Okay, well, that's a lot of words.
No, but that's not, I wasn't suggesting words to replace improvement. I just say you choose words that are more energetically effective.
Gotcha. Thank you. Yeah. Yes. Which comes back to what we've been practicing, like speaking about. We're actually putting it in practice.
Yeah.
And we're revealing which ones we have wrapped up inside of it too.
Just like we were saying yesterday, preach the gospel to everyone, and if necessary, use words.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing is, if we're going to use words, then let's use effective words. Let's use effective energy words.
Boom. Yes. That is focus.
Let's be selective. Yeah, let's be selective about the words we use.
By saying the least words.
Yeah.
The majority of words in the English language are binary and or constrictive.
Yes.
They're fillers.
They're either or words.
Yes.
And we want words that
and
connote
we want
both and.
Yep.
like
Yes,
combine,
yes, and
combine and yes, and words. Yes,
they amplify, they compound, they grow,
right.
expand. And because they have that energy to them, you can just hear it as we speak them. They just compel, they pull us to it.
Mm.
Yeah,
That's the more effective energy that you spoke about, Craig.
yes,
And so what we do is when you use those words, you're creating a structure just like a question compels an answer.
yeah. And there's another good example, because compel is a pull word instead of a push word.
Mhm. Magnet is another word with compel.
Yes, yeah, yeah. Attract.
Attract.
Bind.
Yeah. Discover.
Mhm. Mhm. Explore.
Yeah. Uncover.
Uncover.
Reveal.
Express.
Realize. Enlighten.
Self-mastery.
Attract. Fascinating. See what we created by opening space around words, opening energy around words. So did we unpack improvement? Now, compared to those words, improvement to me feels dull, feels heavy, feels pressure, feels work. That's how I interpret improvement.
Yeah, same here. It's
Yeah. Yeah.
there's a lot of resistance to it. It's forcing. It's forceful.
You know, what's interesting about this is, like, I was a self-improvement junkie for years, and maybe that's part of the reason why I don't like the word anymore. But the thing is, it seemed like a goal that was always out of reach. You know, you'd come close at times, but you could never quite get there.
Only when you started to question your practice because it didn't work were you able to like begin to open up and see that.
Yeah.
But when we first launch into it, it's like, oh, it's all like we keep consuming, we keep pulling it in, and then it's like, why the fuck isn't this working?
Yeah. Well, that's part of the reason that Henry Ford insisted that let Napoleon Hill leave all the good stuff out of the book.
It would sure make sense for his vision.
Because his vision was oppressive in nature.
Well, yeah, and it's like that was his structure of how the only way he saw it could go. Well, probably it was from his perspective, it was the best way it could go.
Of course.
Because he could have left it in, if I am assuming what I know about it, he could have left it in, and Henry Ford could have had even a better opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah, but he saw those parts as a threat.
That's right.
And they were, actually.
Well, in his design, they were. But he could have shifted his design to include them and been better off.
Right.
And so would have everyone else.
That's
Yeah.
the difference between either or and
Yep.
both and thinking.
You bet your ass. Bet your ass. One is controlling it, the other one isn't. The other one's just letting it flow.
So that's a start. If you're going to use logic and linear thinking, then at least graduate from both and, or from either or to both and.
Yep.
But there's a lot of resistance to that too.
Oh, well, of course, because we all are right. We all know. We all have to be right. And so we fight for our rightness. And of course, that's why we have a hierarchy, which means we're not equal.
Yep.
Yeah, it's almost like in this call, like Jesse, you're in charge and you're like, well, I'm going to be talking 70% of the time. Greg, 30% of the time. And Pascal, you just listen.
Is that how it comes across?
Pascal, you can always type in the chat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But nothing more. Nothing more.
Nothing more, you know? Right? It's like, yeah, but like, if you guys want to expand, then let's hear another version, right? I might not be right, but that will expand. So if I'm not right, then you're like, well, that's not that. Let's explore something else. Right, but
an way to look at it would be like, wow, how does he come to that?
Yes.
Right.
I can't get there. I'm not there. It's like, whoa.
Or asking the question, what could I add to that?
Yes.
how can I
Yes.
expand that?
Yes. Because that is accepting it and growing it.
Yes. This is really beneficial for me because I've been contemplating for the last number of months how I'm going to teach people to do this. And like even
So the
like draw them
70,
into the experience.
30% works good, right?
No, but it's even just thinking like that,
Right.
thinking expansively.
Uh-huh.
So part of that is having people make a list of expansive words. Expanding words
Mhm.
of their own is one thing to do. And another thing is to point out the difference between either or thinking and both and. Like both and is combine and expand. Either or has built-in limits right into the thought patterns.
Yep.
So the thing is, so teaching people who are kind of trapped in their own logic and their own reasoning, how can we transition out of that?
It's what creators do.
Yeah.
Hey guys, it's been a wonderful conversation. I just got a webinar at 8 o'clock, so I'm gonna have to let
fun.
you guys go. But
Have fun.
Okay, is it
yeah.
that time already? Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my.
Oh, it was amazing. Thanks, guys. Have a good day.
Thanks, Pascal. See
Yeah, you
see
too,
next time.
Pascal. Happy Saturday. Wow, Jesse, we covered a lot of ground today.
We did. We've covered a lot of ground the last 3 days.
Oh yeah, yeah. 3 silly men.
I love that. I love that.
I know, I love it too.
I love that. I mean, I was thinking about it yesterday. It's like these last 3 days is pretty much 3 months worth of material.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
In a typical coaching curriculum.
Yeah.
Three silly men. Plus some others. Plus others.
Plus others. Someday I'm going to make a movie about this, 3 silly men do it again.
Right. What's awesome that it's all been pretty well. Everyone's been recorded.
Yeah.
For what? I don't know, but
It's just, just documenting how this has unfolded, how all of this has unfolded. It's just, it's totally mind-boggling.
Yep. I'm fascinated. Like it's fascinated me for quite a while. Is that when I intersect with someone that I admire what they've done, I realize that I disrespected their past. And part of that is like for this is a documentation of that.
Yeah.
Like we spoke yesterday, it's the fan that's watching the gymnastics, watching the Olympics on TV in their couch. Say, oh, I can do that.
Yeah.
That's the intersection
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
complete disrespect for that person's past, their effort, their sweat, their commitment, their desire, their intention, their actions, their habits, their practices, their behaviors.
Right.
A complete disrespect.
But it's on television, and you can experience it vicariously.
Yeah. Yes.
You know, you can pretend it's you.
That's right. Because that is what television is good at. And boy, does it work.
Well, exactly. Well, here's the other thing too. You know, I was talking about online learning, and basically what online learning has become is you pop up a bunch of videos.
Yep.
So basically it's teacher class, and that's it.
Yeah.
You know, and that is so putrid with respect to the power that's latent in online learning. I mean, that's just barely a tip of the iceberg, and quite a crappy one.
Well, like as we move through these transitions of technology, it's like that might be the first step down that isn't all the way there, but man, it's a lot of people just stop there because it's so good.
Well, yeah. Settle for it.
There you go. Great word.
Yeah. I settle for this because I don't know any better. And still, it's a $500 billion industry.
Yeah.
You know. I don't know if I mentioned this yesterday or not, but I'm gonna bounce this off you because I think it's a good time to throw it into the mix.
Good.
But I'm sensing a real calling to gather people that are neurodiverse, and that's like people with autism and attention disorders and that kind of stuff, and people that are labeled as learning disabled and that kind of stuff. But I want to create an online community that you become a member of, and I want to set it up on a kind of a peer support model. So the whole point of it is that you have leaders in the group that can speak to the superpowers that are your neurodiversity and what you're actually capable of in those higher dimensions, and really foster an environment where you can make friends online and then co-create with them.
Ugh.
So it's all peer oriented. It's like combine and expand.
Yeah.
The whole environment is about that.
Interesting. So my two automatic resistance to that is, damn it, I can't charge for that, right? So it's just there. The other one is like, oh, how to make it so difficult. Thank you, Craig. So both of them I know are right because they're in the direction of my old patterns. They're opposite. They're in opposition to what my old self would say.
Wow. Yeah.
Because we always resist our truth.
Yeah. Wow.
And the third part was like, oh, the combining an online university to co-create has always been my vision.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, good. I'm glad I shared that with you today then.
Mhm. So my yes and to that because of those reasons.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I have no idea how to do it.
Well, the thing is, I have a few ideas of how to do it. I mean, I've been
Great.
cooking on this for over 30 years, hey?
Yeah, right. See, we all bring our piece, and that's part of it is like, and that is like, I don't know what piece I can bring.
Yeah.
I
So
just, I don't.
the secondary principles behind it are make it interactive, make it experiential, have people participating as much as possible. Demonstrate group stuff instead of a single person lecturing or presenting
Mhm.
like that.
The,
Like
the number one
present in teams.
the number one frustration I have, yes. I believe that doing that is a huge demonstration and will bring the rest of the communities.
Right, and an environment that that encourages free play, as much as possible.
Yep.
So you
Jesus.
avoid things like time limits and time slots and that kind of stuff. Let people go at it until they feel complete.
Nope. And in that is revealing, compelling, and I'm going to use the word pulling out their genius for them to see it.
Yeah, which is the definition of education, actually.
Mm.
To draw out.
Yeah.
So there's no curriculum. You have participants that actually create their own expansion to the space.
Yep. To a group that society has said can't contribute.
Right, exactly.
It's amazing. I've always engaged and challenged. Well, why can't we? Everyone else says no to that, and I find the biggest opportunities inside of, well, we can.
Yeah.
Oh, they're not the easiest either, so damn you.
Yeah. See, I believe that these are the people that Mother Nature is preparing to lead and govern the world.
Yeah. I didn't hold to that always, but I believe that is, I believe there's something greater in it than how I was even oriented to it.
Yeah.
And frankly, it does scare me. So, like, not in a bad way. It's just it just does.
Yeah.
Because I think
these are
I
the
don't
magicians.
understand. Yep. I don't understand it. And I think that's I just uncovered my opportunity.
Because they operate in the energy realm,
Mm.
whether they're aware of it or not.
Yeah. That feels like serving so much good.
Well, because there's a stigma, there's a societal stigma around neurodivergent people. We try to get them to work 9 to 5 and do this and that. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
We totally bypass their genius.
Yeah.
In fact, we deny that they even have any.
Yeah. And then we turn it into a community that raises that generates funds for them, for the community.
Yeah.
So that
we put them in special classes and call them special ed. Like we
exactly.
divide them up.
Yep.
We don't want them to infect normal people, right?
Yeah. That's where I find always the biggest opportunities.
Yep.
Not like I'm special in finding them, but in my experiences, that's where the biggest rewards have come from.
Oh yeah.
Has approaching those types of things in that way.
Yeah. Well, especially the ones like I mentioned earlier that are completely non-verbal. It's just nobody knows what the hell to do with these people.
Mm-hmm. Just imagine the inside of that for that individual.
Yeah, exactly. And so the thing is, another neurodivergent that is partly verbal, a group of other neurodivergents will be able to put together a space where nonverbal people can interact with each other.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, using a combination of technology and energy orchestrating techniques. Because I see a day when the internet will go away. There won't be any need for it anymore. You'll be able to access the field at will. And and you won't have to depend on experiential memory anymore.
Mm-hmm. We won't use it as much of a crutch.
Yep.
Yeah, in all reality, we'll actually move away from it because it'll be just focused on what's next now and what's next.
Yeah, because right now it's an obstacle.
Yeah. Fascinating. I was wondering when Craig was going to ask me to do something.
Oh, cool.
Just thought I would share that as a synchronicity in it too.
Yeah.
All of those for me are signs that say yes and.
Yeah. So anyway, that's been expanding over the last few months. I came up with a new word for these people. You're going to love this. Quantistic.
Ooh. Wow. quantistic leaders.
No. Yeah,
Oh,
they're people that are already operating in the quantum.
oh,
They
that's
just don't
huge.
realize that that's what they're doing.
Mhm. I have to share this with you. So first time I did land of plenty,
Yep.
right, through MagMind. The image I got was a mushroom farmer. You know, what the fuck does that mean? Pull the goodness out of the darkness. Turn it into something nutrient, valuable. And as mushrooms is the fungus, which is the core of the earth, right? Is the greatest organism that there ever is. It's
Yeah.
like helping people come, those that are in the dark, come to the light. That is
Yeah.
what a mushroom farmer does. So keep expanding it. There it is.
Yeah, because they actually grow in the dark, don't they?
Yep.
Yeah.
And they're hiding, right? Not by choice, but they're forced to hide.
Yeah. Wow.
So that's
Yeah,
the
that's a great
uniqueness.
metaphor.
That's the uniqueness of using the energies to get a symbol, to get words that really rattle, that really shake the foundation, right, of who we are, and sitting with it, wondering, what does that mean? Jesus, I think that was 3 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe longer. Well, 3 years, 2020, COVID. So coming up in that session would have been in early July of 2020. But it's one of those, right? It's the vision, the truth. So weird how we talk about that today in the session of true self, the expression of true self, that shows up today.
Yeah. Hmm. Say that again, what you just said.
That's the best I could say is fascinating how that showed up inside of the focus of expressing our true self.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was my intention for today's session.
Yeah.
And so often I can say it's for others, but in reality, it is for me
Yeah.
as a practice,
Yeah.
just being recorded for others to see what's possible in themselves.
Yeah. You know, that's one of my biggest concerns about Chris's program is that there's so few people that have nailed down a very personal true choice for themselves.
It is one of the limiting factors of every program.
Yeah.
And it is why that coach client, that unequal structure doesn't work.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's an example of taking one step and just stopping there.
Yeah.
Because no one has the opportunity, very few have the opportunity to test their true choices out loud with other people without being quote unquote coached, quote unquote corrected
Yeah.
by the expert.
Yeah.
When in all reality, they just have to practice it themselves, which is
Yeah.
why they say practice it in front of the mirror.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, it's interesting too. I reread the book about a month and a half ago, something like that. And it's there's things in there that aren't very accurate.
Hmm.
It's just like I go like, what? You got to be kidding me.
Here's my sense of the whole thing is that it's still from the point of view you're broken and all you need is a recode.
Yeah, well, exactly. That's one point. The other thing is too, what it looks like to me is that all of it was engineered so that there'd be something to market.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
You know, which is which lacks authenticity for me. Like it's, yeah, you know, I talked about
Well, what does it, when you include a publisher, right? What are they going to do?
yeah, but he self-published it.
Well, but he got someone to help him write it. I mean, he wrote it and then they put it over for review and they made all the corrections and edits and reframed it
Okay.
also. So there's those two components. I don't know what was like taken out or how was it proved, but at the end of the day, he had a choice of what went in.
Yeah.
And knowing his background, it makes complete sense. Why else would he really write the book?
Well, you know, he announced before the November event that he was looking for a ghostwriter. And I actually talked to him in November and volunteered to be that person. But he's never contacted me since.
Oh God,
And he kind of avoided me at the at the 5-day event. It's kind of weird.
He's still in his pattern.
Yeah.
So it's
So remember, I said right at the beginning of our conversations today, I said integrity and congruence and being able to sense when there's dissonance. That kind of sums up what I've just been talking about the last few minutes. And it's not a conclusion, it's just a sense.
You know, it's been my interactions too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, what it comes down to is, oh, you're just not good enough.
Yeah. Well,
Got it.
yeah. Well, and there's some disappointment around it. Like I'm kind of disappointed in him, to be honest, because he's got a very unique, he's found a very unique approach and a very unique combination of ways to
It is him.
ways
It
to
is.
change things.
It is his ability. It is who he is. Yeah. It's a
Yeah.
compelling, it's a draw, it's a beautiful. Like he is
But
powerful in
I'm
that.
disappointed though that he's selling himself short.
Yes, that's exactly what it is too. I
Like
see it.
because he's just scratching the tip of the iceberg, but he doesn't seem to have the will to take it to the next level.
Yeah, it's still the wounding. It's still the pattern. It's still the wounding there.
Yeah.
And he's trying to avoid it by not wanting to partner with people, and so he's still partnering with bad people. Not bad in that sense, but limiting people.
Well, yeah.
He's still partnering people that are using it the wrong way, using him the wrong way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he's allowing it. And there's people following him that are going to be very disappointed if they're not already.
Well, yeah. I've noticed that there's quite a few that are already.
In that tight line of business, you don't get to do that very many times.
Yeah. Yeah. Combine and expand, right?
Yeah.
The thing is, if the expansion stops, you can't retain interest. You just can't.
No, it goes away just as fast as it expanded.
Yeah.
Do you stay connected in that
Somewhat,
community?
but I haven't attended anything for a long time. I took up I started super conscious intuition about that program started about 2 weeks after I signed up. So I got into that right away. And then I went to the 3-day, and then they offered Super Conscious Creator, and I started that, but I missed probably half of the live sessions, because quite frankly, I was really after Super Conscious Intuition, I was really disappointed with Super Conscious Creator. I thought it was a waste of time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And but on the other hand, I went to the 5-day, but I was really glad I went to the 5-day, because I almost didn't go to the 5-day. I almost asked them for my money back. And then I decided to go about a week or maybe 10 days before it started. And because I couldn't remember why I signed up for that in particular. And the first day I got there, I realized, and he announced it this way too, the reason it was a 5-day thing is because they were going to spend the first 2.5 or 3 days practicing intuition. And then I realized why I spent the money to go, because that's all I cared about. I didn't really care about learning the recode. I just cared about about practicing the intuition and with other people and, in person, live, and all that kind of stuff. And I wasn't disappointed in that experience at all.
Mhm.
Except that Chris kind of ignored me. So, but yeah, it was a good experience that way. And I mean, just being there opened up a whole plethora of opportunity possibilities for me. Like he talked about working with, he had been hired as a consultant to work with some game company or something like Nintendo or something like that. I'm not sure what it was, but they were paying him $50,000 a day to be a business intuitive. And I'm sitting there. This is the first day he was talking about this, and I'm sitting there in the crowd, and I'm going like, "Holy shit, I can do that!" And I had, and that possibility had never crossed my mind before. So yeah, so it was very expansive for me, just being there for the 5 days. So I know that in the very near future, I'm going to be doing in-person events around all this stuff. And that it might start off with people from the Magmind community because they have a certain amount of background, but I don't know for sure about that.
Why would it be different than what your passion is? The group of people.
Well, it's not.
Okay.
It's just that I can't see the path to getting there so far.
Gotcha.
But Joe and I are experimenting with. We found somebody that's a real master at online membership communities, and so yeah, so we're going to be expanding on that in the next few months.
Fantastic.
Yeah, that's a path of least resistance that gets you far relatively quickly.
What is that?
Like
far in terms of what?
Well, around that peer support community for neurodivergent people
Mm-hmm.
that I was talking about. I mean, that's a huge step towards that.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And it might even be the beginnings of that.
Yeah. Well, great. Well, thank you, Craig. I'm going to go step in with the family this morning.
Awesome.
All right. Thanks for being here. Great conversation today. And I look forward to our next one.
Yeah, awesome. Hey, I'm really glad I could share that with you.
Thank you.
You bet.
All right. We'll talk later. Bye.